Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning if you're joining us from the US. A very warm welcome to this recruitment webinar. Thank you for joining us today. It's lovely to see so many familiar and so many new names on the screen. You'll see at this stage your microphone is muted. This is to minimize the background noise whilst Peter is presenting. You are more than welcome to send through your questions in the chat function, and then the Shadow Match team will assist. We will also collate the questions for the presenter to address at the end, and at this stage you will then be able to unmute your microphone. I would now like to introduce our presenter to you, Mr. Pieter de Villiers. He is the founder and developer of the Shadow Match system and currently the head of research and development. If you have had the privilege to have read or seen any of Peter's work before, you will know the content is always relevant and insightful. That's why we are so excited to hear the valuable insights you will be sharing today about how to optimally recruit in the current climate of this world. So without any further ado, thank you so much, Peter. Over to you. We look forward to the presentation.
Thanks, Susanne. Welcome everybody from my side. Thank you very much, Susanne and the team. There are team members from the Shadow Match office that I see the names. Thanks to all of them who make this possible and work hard between the sessions to get all online. What we will be doing this afternoon is we will have a look at recruitment in this time of lockdown, because obviously it's not the same. It's actually a completely new situation and a new scenario in terms of recruitment. And if we look at the psychology of the new recruitment responsibilities that we take, it is completely different, and I'll show you why, and I'll show you where the differences are. But there's another single point that I just want to highlight to everybody before I share my screen and go into the official visual presentation. And that is in general, we underestimate the value and the role that recruitment plays in a business. Sometimes recruitment is being seen as just another function of business, which obviously is not true. It is, and I will repeat some of these things. I just want to make a very high level comment before we go into the visuals and share screen. If the recruitment of a company can make or break a business, or what I should actually say is the recruitment function in a business will make or break a business. There's no doubt about it. I just had sessions during the last week with people who contact me in terms of recruitment of key people in their business. And I just had a session with somebody a week ago. Let's call it a week ago. They run quite a big operation and they recruited one senior individual, and they made a serious mistake. And that single individual on a senior level of the business pushed the business to the brink of bankruptcy. It's on the edge. He said to me, we can go down. One individual. So what we must be aware of, ladies and gentlemen, is if the CEO or the owner of or the directors of a business or the board of a business is very hard on the recruitment function of a business, it's because they know things. Don't underestimate the knowledge that they have. If they are soft on the recruitment part of the business, they don't know the critical things. So let me share my screen with you. Let's go into the visuals. And then I will show you some of the important stuff that we will be looking at. Now, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, when we recruit for a work from home work situation or a work context, recruitment in a work from home context, the big shift is, it is not about bringing the individual into the workplace. It's about pushing the workplace into the home of the individual. Now, once we understand this, we have actually made big strides forward in terms of what it means to recruit for a work from home situation. It has implications, obviously, for the processes we follow because we cannot have face-to-face interview sessions. And it has huge implications for these two lines that I have decided to share with you. It is no longer bringing the individual into a workplace. So I'm not recruiting somebody to bring that person into the office and provide that person a workspace, a desk, a computer, and in an office which is under a controlled business management environment. What I actually do is I take the office to the home of the individual. And now the game changes all sides, up and down. So now we need to understand a few very important aspects of this. The first thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that if we do work from home recruitment, you recruit the future and not the past. You recruit somebody to build the future of that business. You do not recruit people into the past tense of the business. The entire future of a business depends on the way you recruit people to fulfill the success of that company's future. So we must understand that when we recruit, we actually design and build the future of a business. Now, there's a catch-22 situation in this recruitment responsibility that we take. Because the game has changed, we now recruit for a work-from-home situation. We actually recruit dynamite. And you know what dynamite can do? It can either build a road or you can destroy a building. It's exactly the same with recruitment. Recruitment can do either nothing for the business. In other words, it's like donkeys. You've got to drive them. You've got to sit on their backs and drive them. Or recruitment can self-drive the business. In other words, you recruit people who take up their responsibilities and do the job. That's it. Now, I want to share something with you, or you can obviously, before I share this, recruit somebody that could potentially destroy the future of the business. I did extensive consulting work for a big company that was listed on the stock exchange. It was a very, very big company that almost employed 40,000 people. They replaced a CEO, the CEO of the business, with a wrong CEO. That business doesn't exist anymore. They're gone. One person, one individual in a key role destroyed it. So what we must understand is when we recruit an individual, it's like buying dynamite. It can destroy and it can build. You can use it in a positive, but also it can become very destructive. If you get it wrong, it can create havoc for the business and for the individual. Now, guys and girls, I can share many stories with you where it went wrong. I can share stories with you where recruitment went wrong into key positions. And the cost to the business, there's a case study currently in the making with one of the big life insurance companies where there's a dispute between the CEO and the board. The cost to that business is being calculated in hundreds of millions of rands. Not 500,000 and 600,000 to pay a divorce package or something like that. Hundreds of millions. Now, obviously, we can lift our shoulders and say, but what about junior people? One junior individual in a team that is recruited improperly can destroy the successful functioning of the entire team. There's a model that we use to explain this. It's called the mad monkey syndrome. Now, it's a very horrible word, but it refers to research that was done with monkeys, and that is when one monkey in a family behaves unlike the family behavior, it destroys the entire society of that family. And in a way, this happens with people as well. So what we must understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that when we do recruitment for a company and when we are responsible for recruitment, or you have in your business a recruitment division and you're the CEO or the decision maker in the business, The recruitment function of the business must serve the interest of the business and the employee. Because by serving the interest of both, you actually serve the interest of the entire recruitment process as a successful venture. If you do not recruit in the interest of the employee to be, you do not recruit in the interest of the business. Let me explain to you. These are two sides of the same coin. The coin is recruitment. The one side of that coin is I need to recruit in the best interest of the business. The other side of the same coin is I need to recruit in the best interest of the individual. Why? Because if the job doesn't work for the individual, point number 2 and point number 3 in the shaded gray of this slide can come into play. That individual can become hostile and destructive, and it can create a disaster in the business wherever that new recruit is being placed. So if we do not serve the two sides of the same coin, we cannot recruit at the cost of the success of the individual. So what we need to understand, guys and girls, is there's a new checklist that we need to go through. We must go through a new checklist of additional information that must become part of the recruitment process. So we must check on the first level, ladies and gentlemen, we must check the work from home workplace. We need to ask a few very clever questions. The first is, or amongst these questions is, do you have a dedicated workplace at home? If we recruit somebody to work from home, do we know what the working conditions of that individual will be? Do we know if that person has a dedicated workplace and a workspace that he or she can be at when spending a day in this virtual office or in this world of work from home? Is it a separate room? It doesn't have to be. But if it isn't a separate room, there are some implications that we must be very careful of. How much noise is there in your environment? What is the noise level? Because when we have meetings with one another on a virtual platform like we have now, and there is noise in the environment, it becomes extremely difficult to make meaningful contact. Then we need to ask about the social space of the individual, and we need to, in the interest of the individual as well as the workplace, the employer. How many people will be at home with you during the day? If you are working from home, how many people share that home with you? Are there children? Are there other people? Are there people that maybe share the living space, the home with you, or cohabitation? That's what they call. Do you cohabit? Do you have a cohabitation situation? In other words, you share your living space with others. For young people, this is normal. It's not abnormal. How secure is your place when you are at home? We must act in the interest of the employee. Is the place secure during the day when that individual is alone at home and at their work from home workspace? What do you do with your children during the day and after school? Now, I don't want to, this is a very sensitive thing because we know how important it is for people to have children and to raise their children in a proper way. But if the employee doesn't have a plan with the children, and that plan is not a workable, makeable reality, the children can become extremely stressed if the mother or the father works from home, and it now disrupts their pattern of living, and their living space is being disrupted. And it can disrupt the life of the child if suddenly this situation at home has changed with a working parent or both working parents being at home whilst they were used to probably as teenagers to be alone in the afternoon, and suddenly it changed. It can have a huge impact on the productivity of the employee. Does any other family members also work from home? So these are the questions, because if there is more than one family member working in the same workspace, we must determine what the situation is, because it could be just a disaster in the making. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, we must actually help the individual to think through the process. This is not only to check whether these things are in place. We actually help the individual to think through the process of what does it mean to work from home. The next thing that we need to check is work from home, interruption-free space. Now we need to ask a few very, very clever questions. What do you do if a family member walks in and starts talking to you whilst you are in a work-related meeting? How do you manage the situation? Because what we don't understand, ladies and gentlemen, and this, I'm going to be the person to tell everybody around the table. It's not professional. If you have a meeting and the dogs starts barking and whatever, or children go in and out and they talk to the mother or the father, it's just not on. And for that individual, they might say, but these are just my children. In a working environment, this is tough to deal with, and other people get frustrated sometimes with this. It's not optimal. And then connectivity, be very careful. What we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we must provide, companies must provide what is necessary and not what is asked for. But we must determine minimum levels of connectivity. What is your internet connection like? Do you live in a place where there is fiber connection? Do you have the possibility to be on fiber? Do you have a good cell phone signal? Do you have additional signals tested so that we could probably give you a mobile device and there is coverage in your area? In some situations, guys and girls, the house is located in such a place. We have a problem, for instance, at our house. We have on the ground floor, we have extremely poor coverage on cell phone and on any mobile device. On the upper floor, it's much better. So luckily we have fiber in our place now. But sometimes the house is in a good suburb, but that specific point has got very, very weak signal coverage. We must check for this. Do you have fiber connection? What do you do? What do you use to connect to the internet currently? This is a good question, because we have a good idea then what is in place around the work from home situation for that individual. Then once we've checked these additional areas of interest in terms of bringing the workplace into the home of the individual, I want to discuss two methods of doing an interview with you. The one, ladies and gentlemen, is probably the most powerful one of all. And that is a 3 to 5 minute video recording from the individual that they could either upload onto YouTube, or they can send it, or Dropbox, or whatever it, make it available for the recruiters to view. And in that 3 to 5 minute video, you must have clear instructions to the individual. Make me a video of 3 to 5 minutes maximum, where you tell me about yourself, your successes, your possible failures, your dreams in life, and what made you apply for this job. We don't want the information. We want to see the video. It is probably more powerful than a live interview for many reasons. Because what we do, ladies and gentlemen, we test a lot of additional capabilities in the life of the applicant. We can see whether the person is capable of setting up a virtual scenario. We can see if the person has the technical abilities to do a proper self-interview video. We can check the background of the video. We can check the workspace behind the person. We can, and they can hide it. Yes, 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 that's fine, but possibly not. It is the most powerful way. If we watch those videos in a very clever manner, we learn so much about the individual, the way the individual positioned himself, the way in which the individual puts sentences together, string words together, the way in which the individual presents himself. These are all critical information points, and it is much more time efficient than an interview, especially for the applicant. Ladies and gentlemen, in some instances, applicants must travel for an hour in the traffic to go to an interview and just to hear them that they didn't get the job. This is so counterproductive for people applying for jobs and looking for a job, or even if they are in a very tough situation in a working environment and they want to apply for a job in a different environment. Then it becomes a schlep of a day off, and we can short circuit this entire thing, give clear instructions, give us a video, 3 to 5 minutes. We want these things covered in the video, and you can then decide how you want these things to be covered in the video. And it's much less taxing on the applicant, obviously, and on the people doing the interviews and the recruitment and the information that we get from these videos, guys and girls. It's probably as valuable as the information that we will get from a face-to-face interview, if we do it in a clever and intelligent way, obviously, and if we ask for the correct information as part of the video. But there is number 2. This is what we are used to. We use Zoom, Skype, WebEx, Google Teams, etc., 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 and we then have a virtual interview. Consider this only for the shortlist. In other words, if you have to decide between the final 3 of the ones that you have selected through your process of checking all the checks and references that we need to check once we get the application, whether the registration of the person and the qualifications and these are real, and whether the CV is real, you know what all these things entail. But once you are down to a short list of maximum 4, maybe 3 is a good number, applicants, especially for key positions, then a live Zoom, Skype, WebEx, Google Teams meeting obviously is the best. But many companies recruit large numbers. Guys and girls, large numbers recruitment done in terms of an interview face-to-face and people sitting in a queue in front of the office to wait for their interview time, it's not productive. It's not a productive way of doing it. I would go with a short video max, and then I would use the systems that we have made available, the intelligence systems that we have made available to do the selection process. A few very critical points that I want to share with you, guys and girls, is we don't recruit a person anymore. As I said, we push the working environment into the house and the home of the individual. But if we look at it from the other side, we acquire a working unit. What we actually do is we acquire a complete working unit, an individual with knowledge, behavioral patterns, skills, and a personal situation, a personal social situation, family, a family environment, children, husband, maybe other people also in the household. We actually bring an entire social structure to become, we acquire that to become a working entity. It's not only an individual, it's not a body. It's not bringing a body into an office. We acquire a remote working unit, which consists of everything that we have listed: a desk, a chair, good low noise levels, security, safety. We can make the list we can make it as long as we would like to have it. And then a workstation reality. So we recruit an individual, and then we recruit a workstation reality of connectivity, of dedicated workspace and a security situation. So these things need to be taken into consideration when we recruit for a work from home situation or a context. Now, guys and girls, obviously, a lot of you are Shadow Match customers and Shadow Match users. I just want to show you two case studies or two easy examples. These are the Shadow Match results of the individual, and for those who are new around the table, not knowing the product that I've developed, the red graph here is the individual, and the gray, shaded gray, is that of the top performers that this individual will join when working in this environment. And I want to show you something. At the bottom here, it says 9 out of 10. This individual has got a 90% chance of being more or less as successful as my top performers, given the same training, the same level of knowledge, and the same working environment. The individual has an 83% to fit into the culture over a long term and to successfully work as part of the bigger group. The individual has an 84% there, 84% chance to immediately apply the same habits to the task as the top performers. Here we have the top performers scored 5 out of 6 on the conceptual question. This one, 6 out of 6, task efficiency around about 36%. It's not abnormally low. That's a real task efficiency that we can work with. The attitude is very similar. So we have a 9 out of 10 chance that this individual will do as good as the top performers, given the same knowledge. And they are not, obviously, let me just make a side comment, ladies and gentlemen. There could be other issues in this individual's life. For instance, they're going through a divorce, or they have a close family member that is very ill, or something like that. These are outside of the working environment influences that could obviously compromise their success hugely. But let's look at scenario. This is person A as an example. What we have, ladies and gentlemen, these are hard facts. These are hard facts. This is the benchmark of the skills that's being used by the top performers to do the job. This is a skills grid. It's part of the Shadow Match system. This is the skills grid benchmark. I just want to share quickly how it works. These skills are critical. These skills are important. These skills are helpful, and those skills you don't need. So we have these absolute critical skills amongst the benchmark group. And now we say that this person, who is a 9 out of 10 match to the behavioral environment, is a 7 out of 10 match in terms of the skills environment. And there's only one area where we are a bit worried, and that is that area there. Presentation skills. The benchmark has got 5 out of 5 for the need of presentation skills. This individual only has 3 out of 5. It's been marked as a red area, and now immediately I know that if I recruit this individual, I need to immediately consider this as a development, as a skills development area. Let's just quickly have a look at another example. Example B, person B. This is the opposite. Here we have somebody, the habits of the individual are much stronger than the benchmark. It's a poor match. It's a 35% chance of fitting into the working environment. But on the critical, we also have a challenge that the habits of the individual are not the same as or similar to that of the benchmark. Here we have a much stronger a conceptual fitness, but it could be a problem, ladies and gentlemen, because a person with that high level of conceptual fitness might experience this job as a bit mundane and not challenging enough. Here's a crisis. This is a crisis, ladies and gentlemen. The pace of efficiencies of this individual is much higher than that of the benchmark. That is okay at the attitude category 1. But in a consolidated situation, this person has got a 20% chance of being as successful as my top performers. If we now go to the skills grid, now I've got an 8 out of 10 skilled for the job. But my risk, ladies and gentlemen, is extremely high because I have somebody with the skills, but the person hasn't got the behavioral patterns that will fit the social, working, and cultural environment, especially the working performance environment of my top performers. So now I must be careful. Now I need to take a second look and say, we must now be careful. And then obviously the system gives us the opportunity to create a proper interview pack that all the scoring system is in it. And it brings us to the last part of our discussion, ladies and gentlemen, and this is now the onboarding process. In South Africa, we are not very strong on this. I see that that our clients in America and in Canada and in other parts of the world, they are much stronger on this process than we are. And this is a big mistake, guys and girls. The recruitment process actually stops when the individual can work independently in the job without being dependent on co-workers or colleagues, fully trained and skilled to perform as good as anybody else in that working environment. That's when the recruitment process stops. The recruitment process doesn't stop when you introduce the new employee to his or her boss. It doesn't stop there. It stops when that individual has been fully integrated into the working environment of the division or the business where they need to function. The onboarding process, ladies and gentlemen, is probably one of the missing links in most companies, because I have done extensive consultation work in my life. And when I ask HR, what is your onboarding process and what is your induction program? I don't want to share with you some of the numbers that I have compiled in my own research, just as an informal research process, but it's extremely low. They introduce the new employee to his or her boss, and then they say, good luck and goodbye. This is it. Whilst the training and onboarding process in a business is critical, not only for the individual, but also for that new recruit, the colleagues, even to clients that this new person might engage, and obviously the rest of the business. Integration into the rest of the business is absolutely critical. So let's have a few points that we must take into consideration. We must do a team introduction session, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the most critical aspects of a work from home situation. Let me explain. This individual will start. We've just got, Lisette and I, my wife and I, have a friend who just relocated to a new city, a new working environment, and she will start working as a professional person in a work from home situation. So she will only be able to see her team and the colleagues that she must engage with every day on a screen. So it's a virtual situation. So a team introduction session is absolutely critical. And then the second thing that I see some companies do very successfully, ladies and gentlemen, is they have daily minute meetings with team members. So that person will have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minute, 5-6 minute maximum meeting via Zoom or whatever technology platform they use. One-on-one meeting with each of their team members. So it's just to say, this is what I do, this is where I come from, this is who I am, and this is how I prefer to work and engage with my colleagues. Introduction video, training video, we must prepare videos. It's the most efficient way of training, ladies and gentlemen, because to put a resource down to train people one-on-one, because we have an absence of a training room, we can do it virtually via the platforms like Zoom, but a video is the most efficient way of training. Mark my words, bank on it, ladies and gentlemen. Training will become video-based in the future on all levels, because we now only discover that the training video is much more powerful than a live video session, especially if the trainee has got access to the trainer or the knowledge frame, the where the knowledge sits for asking questions after the training intervention. Now, why is video training more powerful than face-to-face? Because the person can watch the video again and again and again and again. And if there's not clarity on one of the points, they can play back and watch it again, play back and watch it again. So they have no feeling of interruption and feeling stupid because they ask these questions. They can just watch the video until they get it. So it's just much more powerful. And if the video is properly put together and it says to the individual, make notes of your questions, we will have a debrief after the video with the specialist or the trainer, and you can then ask your questions. It's the most efficient way of training people, especially on an induction level. Then system training, how to use the IT system. We will have to work through to a self-guided or a guided self-training, self-learning platform, ladies and gentlemen. These things must become Industry 4 enabled capabilities of the business, because if work from home sits with us for a long period of time, we will have to do it. We will just have to do it. It's just, there's no other way. So the training department or the training people in the business must put these things on videos and on guided self-learning videos for the new employees to learn. Product training, self-learning through self-guided videos or guided self-learning videos. It must be virtual. And the reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, people can then spend a lot of their spare time watching the video again. Maybe tonight, 9 o'clock, the kids are in bed, everybody is asleep, and I still have time available. I've got nothing to do. Can't watch the news anymore because it's only bad news. And I want to do something productive. I can watch the video again, or in the morning or during the day, I can watch the video again and just remind myself of some of the critical things that I might not have up front in my mind. And then the cost of the onboarding process. This is actually the wrong sentence, ladies and gentlemen. It's the cost of the absence of an onboarding process. Let me explain to you what happens. There's a timeline between the moment the person starts in the job and the moment the person becomes competent and productive in their job. The longer that timeline is, the longer the company must carry the cost of that employee without getting any return on investment. If that timeline exceeds 3 months, you're not going to get your money back easily from that individual. In fact, you may never get your money back, unless it's a very high production line individual, like a medical doctor or a vet or one of these professional people. But once the employee starts with day one of employment, I have built a calculator that we can project when is the expected time of return on employment of that individual. I have shocking news for you, ladies and gentlemen. In some instances, some companies never get their money back that they invest into new recruits because it's being poorly recruited. It's the wrong recruitment. It's the wrong person in the job. And now you compound the process. So what we must do is we must either ask the question, what is the cost of a poor onboarding process where the person doesn't get competent to do the job quickly and efficiently? Now, one of the things, ladies and gentlemen, if the person doesn't fit the environment and if the person doesn't connect positively with the team that they work with, that time of becoming competent is prolonged. So it's called an extended time of induction or learning. So if the person is not a good recruit, the cost of that person from the day of employment to the day of becoming competent that the company must carry is so high that it makes the return on employment cost a very, very, very bad it gives it a very bad outcome. So we must short circuit that, and we short circuit that process by ensuring that the individual is a good match and a good fit into the team where they are. But it's a bit of more of a complicated thing, ladies and gentlemen, because some teams we need diversity, and in some teams we don't need diversity. If everybody is doing the same job in the team, then we don't need diversity in terms of the behavioral patterns of the individual. Diversity sits on a different level. There's a video on our website about diversity. On the shadowmatch.com resources, there's a whiteboard video about diversity, the question about diversity in the workplace. It can be diverse, but the skills and the behavioral patterns, if we have diversity there, we struggle to integrate the individual with the rest of the team. I want to show you something interesting, ladies and gentlemen. This is the ShadowMatch team analysis capability, or the team analysis function in the system. This is the existing team in a business. That's their average, that's their consolidated collective behavioral patterns. I just want to show you, look at this as a picture. Just make a snapshot of this as a picture. Now, these are the people currently in the team. So this is what they look like. If you look at them in terms of a military parade and you ask who's out of pace in this military parade, or you look at this as 5 people dancing, who's out of pace with the rest? In the majority of these points, they sort of follow pretty much the same line. There's a bit of out of pace between this individual and that individual on the index to change. There's a bit of an out of pace here, but the rest of it is quite, now we recruit, it's quite in good balance. Now we recruit a new person. This person looks like this. Now suddenly we say, what now? Suddenly we say, this is what my team currently looks like, and they work together in harmony and in peace and successfully with a high content of productivity. Now we have a new recruit, and on day one, the manager of the team compares the new recruit to the rest of his team in the shadow match functions, and the manager says, this is going to be a challenge, because suddenly I have somebody that is quite out of pace with the rest of my team. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a problem if we explain it to the people. It's amazing when people understand each other, how they accommodate each other. But if we don't explain it to the team will reject this individual. And if this individual has to work in a work from home situation, the rejection will be even more, because there's no common ground where they could find each other and find at least common ground. Where is their common ground? There's common ground. There's a good level of common ground. Here it's good. There it's good. There it's sort of good. It's okay. Here we have this. Here we have a challenge. Here we have quite a strong challenge. Here we have quite a strong challenge. If they do not understand these challenges, ladies and gentlemen, it makes it extremely difficult for them to live with it. So one of the things that we must do in a work from home situation is we must, as soon as possible, go through a team analysis and a team discussion with everybody, because it's got nothing to do with right and wrong. It's got everything to do with, let's accommodate each other, understanding the fact that we are individuals and that we are a difference, that we have different behavioral patterns. So in this situation, the onboarding process must take this into consideration and help the team to understand the new person, but also help the new person to understand the team and where the challenges between individuals. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if I just want to highlight something, if the red line is me and the blue line there, or the red line there is me and the blue line there, this is a good situation to misunderstand each other, and then to look at the same problem from completely different perspective and then in the process miss the consolidated integration of that person into the community of the team. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with this, obviously, thank you very much. I will stop sharing my screen now. I just want the recording to catch this. You can contact us, info@shadowmatch.co.za. You can contact me personally at peter@peterdeviliers.co.za. All the information that I've shared with you now, other than the content of this webinar, is on our shadowmatch.com website. Before I hand back to Suzanne, just a word or two. We have time for questions, ladies and gentlemen. I have allowed time for questions. You're more than welcome to ask your questions. If questions came in, Suzanne will obviously put them first. But the important aspect that I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that in a work from home situation, and that is the conclusive sentence, we actually push the working environment into the personal, private, and social lives of the new recruit. So we push the business into the life of the society of that individual. And we must do it in a very responsible and in a very correct manner. If we don't do it in a proper way, we compromise the individual and we compromise the business. And this is where ShadowMatch provides us with these powerful capabilities to understand how to optimally integrate this work from home situation with a proper performance outcome for the individual and for the business. With that, I'm going to hand back to Suzanne for questions.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for the presentation. We had a few interesting comments during this session about the other challenges in working from home, such as barking dogs and construction with your neighbors, or all the interesting distractions, as well as load shedding. And there was a comment to say, if we assess the individual's work from home space, to also take into consideration what is the backup plan if load shedding is part of the mix. At this stage, there are not any other questions that were sent through. The setting has been changed, so anybody is welcome to also ask their question verbally. You are allowed to, or you can unmute your microphone at this stage. Please let us know if you have any questions. Here we have a question coming in from Steve. He asked, if the candidate is good, but the home environment is not great, can the candidate be rejected from a legal fairness perspective?
No, can't. Unfortunately not. If the candidate tells you that he has a work from home situation that is makeable and it's possible, you can't legally, you cannot disqualify the candidate on that, because these are private initiatives that the candidate. But what you can do is you can ask you can contract the candidate that it's a work from home situation and these things must be in place. So there must be a high level connectivity, there must be this, there must be this, and there must be this. This could be a condition of employment because it's real work tools. So we can contract that, but we cannot reject because the candidate says that I have kids at home. We can't do that. It's illegal. But we can contract for working tools to be in place. There must be connectivity. There must be this. There must be this. There must be this. That we can do. But this is just to go into this a bit further. I'm glad somebody mentioned the availability of electricity. It's the same as the availability of connectivity, good solid connectivity. We must be very careful, and that is when I went through those slides, I said we must ask very clever questions because we want to act in the interest of the employee as well as the interest of the business. And if there's not a proper workspace for the employee at home, then we do not act in the interest of any of the two. So we must just be very careful. That's why my preference is to use very hard decision-making tools like, am I qualified? Do I have the skills of the top performers? And then the 3 to 5 minute video is a hard decision-making framework that we can use. But we must be very careful not to say to any, or we mustn't do that, not say it. We mustn't reject a person based on their private work from home capabilities, unless some of the critical elements are not possible, like for instance, connectivity or a dedicated workspace or whatever it is.
Thanks for the feedback, Peter. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it changes going forward when work from home is a reality and not just a temporary thing, and it's with us a long time. I think it's going to shift the emphasis we put on those things. A next question coming through with regards to the team analysis, asking, will the team analysis look different in a work from home scenario versus a traditional office environment?
This is such a tough question, Suzanne. It's such a tough question to answer, because what we should actually do is every company must try and compile their 5 to 10 people that successfully work from home with a high level of productivity, but they also like the situation. They maybe prefer working from home. So there's a complete package of a positive experience in working from home. And then that must also be set up as a team to see what does that team look like? What is the team profile of those successful individuals in this company working from home? I've done a universal one. I've done an international global one, which I can share with whoever wants to share it. I might even be able to share it as part of the email that we send out when we send out the video recording, just that profile of what it looks like. But it's an international one. So every company must actually have a company-specific work from home profile that they could use, because for that company, that profile will be applicable. It's not something that we can use generic. I've built this generic international global one just to show that this is what it seems to look like on a global platform of work from home successfully. But it will change from company to company. There will be slight differences from company to company. So they should actually put that together as part of that integration into the workplace intelligence that they have. But it will be different, yes.
Thanks, Peter. No more questions, but a few comments where people highlight it's an interesting setup now. Because people can lie, and it's interesting if an employee wants to fix the work from home environment, but he says he will, but he can't or he won't. And yeah, they're agreeing with the induction and the onboarding. I think it's going to be an interesting journey, this whole new work from home. So sessions like these are very valuable to understand the new recruitment setup.
I think Lisette wants to comment on something.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Suzanne. I think just comment on the comments that Suzanne just read, and I think just throughout the entire discussion and the questions from other participants, Peter, I think the most important thing in my mind is when you contract somebody who's going to work from home, obviously they can lie about their capabilities at home. They can lie about their workspace. They can lie because they desperately want the job. But ultimately, you're going to contract somebody for performance. So you're going to have a performance contract, and they're going to know exactly what they need to achieve, and you're going to manage them on their outcomes, because you cannot manage them on what their situation is at home. So I think in all of this, if somebody lies, it's going to come right back to them, because you're going to manage them on performance, and if they don't perform, then you're going to either end the contract or you're going to start a performance management process. So that's just my comment. You know, I understand and I hear the concerns, but ultimately it's, can you do the job? So if you are lying about what you can and can't do, maybe your skills grid was fine, maybe your shadow match was a perfect match, but you've lied about your work situation at home, like Steve pointed out, or Monique also mentioned, then if you don't deliver, then it's going to come right back to you. That's just my comment.
Yeah, Suzanne, sorry, I just want to add just comment on Lizette's. It's all true. The fact is that people lie. Well, no, let me say it correct. Some people lie anyway. So, you know, it's just extremely difficult to lie through a shadow match system, because the system is so clever and so strong and so robust. It's extremely difficult to manipulate that. And What we have found on Skills Grid is when people realize, but these skills that I now capture can be tested, because we say it explicitly, really remember, you can be tested for the skills that you have now captured. They rather underestimate rather report their skills to be weaker than stronger. So they under report their skills rather than over report their skills. And this is quite an interesting research that we have done with people. And Sharon, that is currently in part of our discussion, also once mentioned that people that she has the experience of individuals that underscored their skills because they are afraid of being caught, not being skilled enough. But this is, and guys and girls, we must live with the fact, but you must remember that the first time you have a virtual meeting with an individual from their work from home situation, the facts will come out. You will either hear the dogs or you will see what's the working environment or whatever it is. So the challenge is to rather check these things in a proper and in a very responsible way pre-employment. And if there's a problem, discuss it with the individual in a very proper manner so that you can stand up in any challenge to say, but I've done the responsible thing throughout the process, because it's a new process, it's a new world. It's like Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook once said, he said, who else has got a company with 4 billion employees, 4 billion customers? How must I manage them? I don't know. Can anybody tell me? Because nobody's got that number of, so it's a new situation.
Thank you, Peter. A last comment coming through here from Monique, which she says she also finds that employees don't have a good work-life balance when working from home. So burnout and high stress levels are definitely going to be factors to take into consideration. And especially then when you're asking those hard recruitment questions, to keep this in mind.
Yeah, Susanne, these are very complicated issues that we need to deal with in this work from home space that we are in. I have conducted a few webinars now, and one of them is the work from home challenges. I wrote a micro book on it that is available. You can, if you don't have it, just send us an email and we will send it to you. It's for free. I will in August probably do another work from home webinar because of the need that we run into. There's a huge need for people to better understand the emotional and psychological frames of the work from home situation. I ran a webinar and we will run it again. And in the next webinar that I will run on the work from home, I will spend time on the individual and the psychology, the psychological implications for the individual when they suddenly have to work from a workspace that is not work friendly and a positive work from home situation. So just watch out for the material that comes out in the communication and join those webinars. It's for free.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Then the very last comments here coming through, a thank you for the work from home webinar. Amelia joined in and said it was very helpful and she would recommend someone joining in. And then a comment to say that both the employer and the employee should be honest upfront, that it is a suitable situation for both, that they both have the correct expectations and it doesn't escalate into something else. Let's just see, there's one more comment here. It's a comment on the requirements provided from the employer to the employees. They would need to provide the necessary tools, example, like the laptop, internet, and avoid discrimination based on the work from home situation. So rather provide the tools to do the work from home than discriminate on the lack of the tools. Perfect. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see any other questions or comments coming through. Just a comment on the emails. You're still welcome to stay if you have any other questions you might like to address, but I'm going to formally end the session and stop the recording. Thank you so much for joining in today. It was great having you. We hope to see you in a future webinar. And then please send any more questions to info@shadowmatch.co.za, and then we'll see you in the next webinar. Keep well. Thank you.